Okay, on the next page. All right, you will not always see f of g of x or f of g of x. Sometimes it could be g of f of x or g of f of x. What function am I going to start with? I'm always going to start on the right. And in this case, the f of x will go into the g of x. So on number 3, y'all, when I'm given f of x equals 3x minus 4 and g of x is x squared minus 1, if I'm finding f of g of x, that means I'm going to put my g of x, which is this, and I'm going to substitute this into the f function. So when I do that, I'm going to have 3 times x squared minus 1 minus 4. And so now, next I need to distribute the 3. So I get 3x squared, and I have minus 3 minus 4, and that's going to give me minus 7. So what do you think? On the next one, it says g of f of x. Am I getting the same answers? So let's see. G of f of x. And so g of f of x means I'm going to take my f, and I have to substitute the f in for x. So that's going to give me 3x minus 4 squared minus 1. And so that gives me 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4 minus 1. And how do I multiply this? If I take 3x times 3x, what do I get? 9x squared. And then what's my middle term? I have minus 12x minus 12x, so that gives me negative 24x. And then I have negative 4 times negative 4, and that makes 16 minus 1 gives me 15. So we don't get the same answers. Okay, for A, I want to do f of g of 3. So I'm going to start with g of 3. So g of 3 is going to give me 3 times 3 plus 4. And that's going to give me 9 plus 4, which is 13. And then what do you think I do next? I'm going to take the 13 and put it in my f of x, right? So I'm going to do f of g of 3, and that's going to give me 13 squared minus 2 times 13 minus 6. And if you will trust me, you would get 137. All right, now you try the next one. You're going to take f of x, which is this, and you're going to substitute it in here. All right, so if we substitute h of f of x, I'm going to say then I'm going to have 1/2 times x squared minus 2x minus 6 plus 2. And I know that the fraction scares all of you. So I'm going to have 1/2 x squared. And then what's 2 divided by 2? it's going to give you negative 1x, right? So I'm just going to put the negative x. Is that okay? Okay. So then I'm going to take 6 divided by 2, and that gives you negative 3 plus 2 gives you negative 1. Any questions there? We're good? Okay. So f of negative 2 is going to give me negative 2 squared minus 2 times negative 2 minus 6. So this is going to give me 4 plus 4 is 8 minus 6 is going to give me 2. So what do you think I'm going to do with that 2? I'm going to do g of 2 now. So my g of 2 is going to be 2 times 3 plus 4. And that's going to give me 10. Is 10 my answer? What's the answer? Right, I haven't multiplied by 3 yet. So my 3 times g of f of negative 2 ends up being 30. And y'all, you have to write it all out. It matters. The way we write it matters. And if you leave this part off, it's just wrong. You're kind of wrong. Oh, your lead is cheap. It's fine. Okay. So now, what am I doing? H of 6. I'm going to do H of 6. So 6 minus 2 gives me 4. Where does that go next? G of 4. So I'm going to have 3 times 4 plus 4 is going to give me 16. And then I'm going to do F of 16, which is going to be 16 squared minus 2 times 16 minus 6. And if you trust me, it's 218. Okay, so the next one, in my f function, I'm going to replace x with what? X plus 4. So I'm going to get x plus 4 squared minus 2 times x plus 4 minus 6. Okay, everybody multiply it out. Applied and distributed the minus 2. You should have gotten x squared plus 6x plus 2. And then I'm going to take this, and I have to put it back in my h function, which adds the minus 2. So what's 2 minus 2? They cancel, and it just leaves you with the x squared plus 6x. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so I want to go ahead and we're just going to drop down and look at the last 4. So when you look at the last 4, look at the last 4. So what am I doing with the first one? What am I doing with the first one on A? I'm adding. What am I doing on B? Okay, so we're just going to add and subtract on these. So if I'm adding my f of x and my g of x, I'm going to go ahead and line up things that are the same so I can add them together. So I'm going to have x squared plus 3x minus 4, and then I'm going to have x minus 1. And when I add, I get x squared plus 4x minus 5. We just added things that were like. Now the next one, we said we're subtracting. So when I subtract, f comes first. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 4. And now I'm going to subtract my g of x, correct? So when I subtract, what has to happen to the signs? They flip. So I'm going to have, instead of a positive x, I'm going to have a minus x. Instead of a negative 1, I'm going to have positive 1. And then we can go ahead and add. So I'm going to get x squared plus 2x minus 3. So that's the add and the subtract. Is that okay? Okay. Now, this is what I really need you to look at. Look at C and D, because I don't want you to get confused on these. What is C asking me to do? But what is D asking me to do? So D is the f of g of x, right? D is the composition, but C is still multiply. It's still an operation. So I'm going to take the f, which is x squared plus 3x minus 4, and I'm going to multiply by x minus 1. So when I multiply, I'm going to take x squared times x. What does that give me? X cubed. Then I'm going to take x squared minus 1 minus x squared. 3x times x, I'm going to get 3x squared. 3x times minus 1 gives me minus 3x. Negative 4 times x gives me minus 4x. And negative 4 times negative 1 gives me plus 4. And then what do I do? Combine like terms. Can I combine anything with the x to the third? So then I have minus x squared plus 3x squared, and that gives me 2x squared. Minus 3x minus 4x gives me negative 7x, and then plus 4. So what's the very last thing I have to do, y'all? I'm going to take the g of x and substitute it in my f of x. So this is going to give me x minus 1 squared plus 3 times x minus 1 minus 4.